In the vibrant city of Ibadan, with its noisy atmosphere and busy aura, lived a young girl named Amina. Amina was the only daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Adeyemi, who were well known and respected in the community. Amina's father was a skilled blacksmith. Every morning, the sound of his hammer striking metal echoed through the city, signaling the start of a new day. He crafted tools and beautiful art pieces that adorned many homes in Ibadan. Amina's mother, on the other hand, was a talented weaver. Her beautiful and vibrant fabrics were sought after within Ibadan and even by people from neighboring towns. Amina's dreams were as colorful as her mother's fabrics and as strong as her father's ironworks. From a young age, it was clear that Amina was exceptionally bright and intelligent, with a love for learning that set her apart from her peers. Amina's dream was to become a doctor, and she put in lots of effort towards this goal by studying and doing her homework on time. School days for Amina were filled with joy and excitement. Every morning, she would happily skip down the bustling road, surrounded by the lively activity of buses and traders. While at school, Amina quickly made friends with the other children, which made her school days even more enjoyable. Amina is an awesome and bright pupil, her teachers often said. She has the potential to achieve great things. In and around her neighborhood as well, Amina was also adored by both young and old. She was always ready to lend a helping hand, whether it was fetching water for elderly neighbors or helping the children in her neighborhood with their lessons or homework. With Amina being intelligent and friendly both at school or around her neighborhood, her circle of friends grew and she soon had a close-knit group of friends. Her closest friend was BC, a cheerful girl with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. Together, Amina and BC would sit under the big baobab tree during school breaks, cheerfully chatting about what they both want to be and achieve in future. Amina had two other close friends, Adani and Zainab. Adani was a quiet girl with a deep love for reading, while Zainab, on the other hand, was an exceptional dancer who loved to dance. Amina, BC, Zainab, and Adani were always there for one another, even though sometimes they loved to joke around and occasionally get on each other's nerves. Amina was this bright, friendly, and obedient girl both at school and home. However, her parents, particularly her father, believed that girls should be kept close to home, and because of this, they monitored her movement. They rarely allowed Amina to go out after school, during weekends, or even socialize with her peers. They thought it was the best way to protect her as a girl child and as a teenager. This made Amina to most of the time stay back at school, so that she could spend some more time with her friends. One warm evening, Amina lost track of time while playing with BC. Her mother and father were not around, so she decided to spend some time with BC since her house was a stone's throw from theirs. The sun had set before Amina realized time had gone, which made her hurriedly make her way home. When she got home, her father was waiting for her at the door with an angry look. "Amina," he began, "do you know what time it is? Your mother and I were worried sick. Where did you go?" Amina looked scared and told him she went to BC's house. "I am sorry, Papa, I lost track of time." "Sorry is not enough, get inside here," Amina's father shouted, then landed a slap across her face, which was followed by the sharp crack of his belt as he beat her that night. As Amina grew more into her teenage years, she began noticing some changes in her body and getting curious about many things. Her friends often talked about their body changes, which left Amina with questions she didn't know how to answer on her own. One evening, while she was helping her mother in the kitchen, Amina decided to ask her some of these questions. "Mama," Amina began hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" Her mother, busy slicing vegetables, glanced at her briefly. "What is it, Amina?" "I'm quite busy." Amina took a deep breath and said, "I've been noticing some changes in my body, and I don't really understand them. My friends talk about these things, and I want to understand what's happening to me." Her mother stopped chopping and turned to her with a stern look. "Amina, you should not be talking about such things. Good girls do not discuss their bodies or listen to such talk. During our own time, it was taboo to talk about these things, so focus on your studies and your chores. That's what's important." But Mama, Amina persisted, I just want to know why these things are happening. It's confusing, and I think I should understand my own body. Amina, I said no. Talking about these things will only lead you down the wrong path. You don't need to know about such matters. Just do as you're told and stay away from those friends who fill your head with nonsense. Her mother shouted at her. Amina felt ashamed and silenced, so she only just nodded and returned to her chores. However, she was still curious. One day, a few weeks later, Amina gathered the courage to try again. This time, she approached her mother while she was sewing. Mama, I know you said I shouldn't talk about this, but it's important. I really need to understand my body. Please, can you just explain a little? Her mother put down her sewing and sighed, harshly. Amina, why are you so stubborn? Do you want people to think you are a bad girl? All this talk about the body will lead to no good. Just focus on your education. That is all you need to worry about. Amina simply nodded yet again and left the room. She decided she will get answers and learn all she needs to know from her friends since her mother was not willing to converse with her. So, 2 days later, Amina met her friends at school and asked them about their previous conversation. She wanted to understand what menstruation and sexual urges were. Zainab and BC took the time to explain what menstruation is and how it happens to her. But I have not started mine and I do have lower stomach pain as you've said. Does that mean that I will also soon start menstruating? Amina asked her friends. Well, maybe, her friends chorused as they quickly changed the subjects to boys' talk. One warm evening a few months later, as the city of Ibadan settled into a gentle calm, Amina felt a hot gush in between her legs. She raised up her skirt to see what was happening, and saw blood. Scared, she ran to her mother and told her what had just happened. Amina's mother was so happy that she lifted her up and gave her a tight hug. Then, she cleaned Amina up and taught her how to use a pad. When Amina was done, her mother sat her down and only told her that if any man or boy should touch her now, she would get pregnant, and if she gets pregnant, she would be disowned. Amina asked her mother for the part of her body a boy will touch that will get her pregnant, but her mother shouted at her to keep quiet and said no man or boy should touch her is all she needs to know. The following Monday, Amina arrived at school and excitedly told her friends that she had started her menstruation. She also mentioned her mother's warning about her getting pregnant if any man or boy just touched her. Amina's friends looked at Amina and burst into laughter. Then, they explained that her mother had lied to her. It was not possible to get pregnant from a boy simply touching her. Amina was confused and wondered why her mother lied to her. So, that afternoon, as they walked home, Amina asked BC about how a girl could get pregnant. BC explained to her how sex happens and said, a boy laying in between your legs, Amina, won't get you pregnant unless he pees inside you. Pee inside of me? No, that's gross and disgusting. Amina replied, and the both of them just laughed it off. Few months later, BC turned 16 and wanted to celebrate it in a small way. Her parents were out of town for the weekend and she was home alone with her siblings, so she invited a few of her friends alongside Amina. Amina knew the kind of parents she had and she dared not tell them she wanted to go for BC's birthday even though it was just for a few hours. So, in her mind, she decided she was going to lie and tell them she was going to BC's house to study for their upcoming exam. On the day of the party, which was the following day, Amina told her parents she was going to study. This is 12 p.m, make sure you are back to this house before 6 p.m, her father said as Amina hurriedly left the house. Amina nodded and went to BC house. By 6 p.m, she came back just in time to avoid her parents' anger. A month later, Amina started throwing up and feeling uneasy in her body. Her mother noticed this and quickly took her to the local clinic for treatment. When they got there, the doctor revealed that Amina was a few weeks pregnant. Amina couldn't believe her ears, nor could her mother. Amina, you have disappointed us, her mother wailed immediately as they stepped into the house. She screamed for Amina's father and told him the news of Amina's pregnancy. That night, Amina was allowed to sleep in the house, but the next day, her parents sent her out to go and look for who impregnated her. Amina immediately headed to BC's house, and while on her way, she wondered what could have happened and how she got pregnant. BC said she could only get pregnant if a boy peed in her, but no boy peed in her as the clothes she wore on that day didn't smell of urine. She only remembered a boy laid in between her legs, so how come? When Amina got to BC's house, she pleaded with BC to tell her what happened, but BC denied anything happening at her house that day. "Okay, can your parents follow me to go and beg my parents?" Amina asked. "No, they are not around," BC said, "and even if my parents were around, I won't allow you access to them, so that they won't think that is what I do too." Amina felt bad at her best friend's statement. She didn't know who else to go to, but she eventually went to her neighbor who pitied her and agreed to follow her to beg her parents. The next day, Amina's parents sat her down and asked her who got her pregnant. Surprisingly, Amina didn't know who the boy was. She only remembered she went for BC's birthday and a boy laid in between her legs. Amina's parents, on hearing this, immediately went to BC's house to ask what happened and how, but BC denied ever seeing Amina that day. The same thing went for everyone present at that party. They all denied ever seeing Amina that day. Dejected and confused, Amina and her parents went back home. Amina couldn't terminate the pregnancy, so she kept it.